Hi, it's Tactifuchs again, and welcome to Overanalyzing Tacticus. Today's video will be a look at campaign events, the new mode in town to get previously unfarmable characters. I go into my thoughts on the mode first, and then compare campaign events to requisitions as a way to get new characters. Let me ask you, do you think campaign events will make requisitions obsolete in the future? Discuss with me in the comments. If you'd like a really close look at requisitions, you can watch my last video on it here. If you don't feel like watching 50 minutes, I made those nifty timestamps making it easy to skip the beginner stuff or just watch that. Let's lay out how this first campaign event went really fast, and then go into a comparison of campaign events to the current state of requisitions. Both are meant as a way of getting new characters, and with the implementation of campaign events, snowprints are really starting to make true in their mantra of requisitions not being the main way of getting characters, which is definitely great. Now, the first campaign event pitted the Death Guard against the Adeptus Mechanicus. In between battles there were little lore blurbs included, which I really enjoyed. While the choice of farmable characters was definitely well received, as they are one of the most meta-relevant fractions right now, the choice of playable characters made a lot of people groan. You play as the Death Guard, whose only freely available characters are Maladus and Rotbone. For the playable characters, Maladus is locked behind guild raid chests, and Rotbone is in the guild war shop and the requisitions rewards track. Both are solid characters and would have been a nice choice for a core for the campaign. Instead, Maladus was joined by Pastilian and Carodius as the mandatory trio for the campaign. Those might be fun characters, but you have to rely on luck to get both of those. Pastilian was featured in the appropriate battle pass. Good thinking on Snowprint's part. But since the event started so short into the battle pass's lifetime, even I, with only 11 shards missing and the paid battle pass, was only able to get him 3 days into the campaign event, which I neglected until then. Which is fine for me, but for a player that wants to farm characters and only has 14 days to do it, that might be a problem. Snowprint imagined a nifty solution though, which is really nice on paper. You can now borrow missing characters. You will miss out on some of the one-time rewards and progression in the event chests that replace campaign chests, but you'll be able to progress through the levels. You can still 3-medal all battles and get the appropriate reward. You won't get the now newly minted gold, silver and bronze awards though, which at least feels like missing out a bit. Still, very new player friendly. I applaud the idea. I'm not complaining about this. People who do have the characters are rewarded for that and their investment, and if you don't have invested, you can just borrow the characters like all the others. It's just a choice of 2 unfarmable characters that leaves a slightly sour taste, combined with the short notice we had to actually develop those if they have been rotting at the bottom of the roster before. The level cap on each battle makes the fights more strategic, yes, and could have been a fun idea. It's quite decisive. Some argue that their investment in characters falls flat this way, others that you play the game for the strategy and that it's more fun this way. I fall on the first side of this argument. I do enjoy a challenge, but we got that in the harder levels anyways. Thanks to Nox, whose guide I followed for a lot of the battles I did. The matchup was really unfortunate. Carodius Poxwalkers multiply by killing living enemies, which were really underrepresented in the campaign. Combine that with the slow speed of your characters and a pretty tight lightning victory limit, and some of the battles really didn't feel fair to me. The exclusion of Rotbone in the core trio meant you had to drag him along in most missions as a healer, as your melee-only strike team slowly slugged up to the enemy, who was shooting you all the while, healing themselves and even hindering your movement further with the Electro-Priest suppression attack. Their resilience also didn't help, although it meant that Pastilian had a purpose after all. The allies, in form of the World Eaters, also entirely consist out of unfarmable characters. The Blight and Blood banner that was active alongside the event made them more probable to pull, but Then again, even in blessed requisitions the chances for a good pull are pretty low, as I've discussed in my previous video. The Extremis campaigns was meant as fun, even more difficult mode for more developed rosters. The catch though, no borrowed characters. I got Pastilian to gold far too late, despite channeling all my effort into him, but at least I had him at silver 2 at the end, which was enough to finish the epic levels. The rewards. The one-time rewards felt good, as you could rack up quite a few on any given level. This is a one-time bonus though, and the normal chances aren't that high. On screen, you can see my comparisons between different levels of upgrade rarities by chance of getting them. You can watch my upgrade farming guide for even more insights. The probability used in the normal campaign events is that of normal nodes, which is pretty low for requiring that specific of a roster. I wouldn't farm anything beyond common and maybe uncommon upgrades here. Since you have a level cap, the rewards were also slightly harder to get. Then again, you basically got double the one-time rewards compared to a normal campaign, if you had all characters at level and could pull off lightning victories, that is. The Extremis campaign was arguably harder than most elite campaigns. Harder enemies, worse matchup, and a level cap, with this time no borrowed characters at all. Sadly, this wasn't rewarded by equally high yields, as you only get the mirror probabilities for farming, which really start to become unattractive from rare upgrades on. Before looking at a comparison to requisitions as a way of acquiring characters, I thought it would be worthwhile to have a look at farming characters, how long it takes and how normal campaigns compare. I compare only farming at elite nodes, the most effective method, to all-out farming on an elite node and a normal node, and only farming on campaign event nodes. Keep in mind that the campaign event numbers apply to only using normal or mirror nodes, as those probabilities are the same. But if you're able to get the appropriate Extremis node, you can do the 10 battles on 2 nodes each, doubling your speed. A common character needs 40 shards, an uncommon character 80 shards, a rare one 130 shards, an epic character 250 shards, and a legendary character 500 shards to unlock. An elite node has an effective chance of 8% to give you a second shard and will always guarantee one. Only farming at an elite node means getting 3.24 shards a day, considering the 3 raids a day limit. This means that all-out farming is faster, yielding 6.71 shards per day. With 2 times 10 fights available for campaign event farmable characters, if you can get to the appropriate Extremis node of course, you can farm up to 6.94 shards a day. So, this seems to be the fastest method now. If you consider the days needed to get a character, we see another picture. While only farming elite nodes is more efficient, it's also slower, and you'll need 12.35 days to even get a common character. A legendary one will take 154.32 days, so short of a half year. All-out spending is faster, at only 5.96 days for a common character, to 74.52 days for a legendary character. Nice! In campaign events, a common character will only need 5.76 days, marginally faster than the all-out farming. A legendary character would need 72.05 days. Quite fast, you think? Wrong! You need to take a farming break of 3 weeks every 2 weeks of farming. So it actually takes 177.05 days. Effectively, only common and uncommon characters are faster at campaign events. Actually, it's a bit faster than that due to a lot of one-time rewards being Vitruvius shards, but those are hard to calculate in, and normal campaigns also had one-time rewards. Effectively, only common and uncommon characters are faster at campaign events. But there's also cost. Only elite node farming will only cost 30 energy a day. All-out farming mixes ineffective nodes with that elite node for speed at around double the yield for triple the cost. And campaign events only use ineffective ones for quadruple the cost for a slight increase compared to all-out farming. That's almost double the cost compared to Elite only, and isn't even faster anymore. So yeah, campaign events might be a new way to farm characters you want, but it's slower than even only using Elite campaigns, and the most expensive method in any case. There's also opportunity cost. Whereas you could farm 3 different campaigns at once if you wanted, you can only farm up to 1 for only 2 weeks per battle pass, limiting you to 1 fraction per pass. Next up, we're going to see how well campaign events lend themselves to farming characters compared to requisitions, as one of the biggest positives in my book is making requisitions less mandatory. There are still 22 characters locked behind requisitions, and getting a reliable way to get them would be great. Well, now you're bound for a proper mad ramble. In a discussion in the Requisition Rework Discord, user Hyojin alluded to comparing the requisition system to the campaign events, since I mentioned I think campaign events might replace requisitions, at least as a device for getting new characters. I'm not sure if they actually meant directly comparing those two things, but here we go, let's go off the deep end. We start by seeing how many requisitions you get each Battle Pass season. As a free player, you get 3 in the Battle Pass, 1 for each Guild War, and 2 for the normally 2 tournament arenas. The other rewards really vary. Level ups, mission level ups, and campaign page rewards and missions award some more requisitions, and we get codes sometimes. But that's infrequent and depends on the player, so I leave those out. Enough of that. We pretty much get 6 free requisitions a Battle Pass. That would cost 1,800 Blackstone otherwise, and gives you a total of 134.22 shards on average. Those are totally random, and you never know what you'll get. With that Blackstone, you could afford to buy 36 days of the 50 Blackstone refills straight. But only 2 weeks of campaign event means we must cram that Blackstone into 14 days. We can afford 2 refills a day for 160 Blackstone each for 10 days, and then go 4 days with only 1 refill. That's a whopping 2400 energy. Even at a bad campaign event rate of 17.29 energy per shard spent, you'd get 138.8 shards doing this. Mind you, that's distributed between a couple characters and only from 1 fraction, but it's not random and pretty close to the value you get otherwise, so it seems better. We can also count blessed requisitions. They give more shards after all. I lowball here and say you get 3 per battle pass. In the last 2 events, that was pretty achievable without skewing your playstyle too much. That's a total of 90.34 shards on average a month. Together with the normal scrolls, you're getting 224.56 shards total per month. Cool! Now, since the campaign event is still limited to 2 weeks, this makes the worth of the total 3000 Blackstone for scrolls we're getting less effective. Crammed into 14 days, you get 3 refills 3 times, and 2 refills 11 times during that period, for a total of 3100 energy and 10 Blackstone left to spare. This would allow us to farm 179.28 character shards. But is that even possible? You should get, if the first campaign event was an anomaly because Sidejax wasn't released yet, 5 characters available each campaign event, each having a normal and an extremis node. Most players won't unlock all of those in the first try, but just roll with it. That's 10 nodes to farm shards, each being farmable 10 times a day for 14 days, giving you a potential 1400 tries. With an effective probability of 34.7% to get a shard on those nodes, you get 485.8 shards total. This makes a maximum of 97.16 per event character feasible. So yeah, those around 180 shards are easily possible. This still leaves out one-time rewards, but those are one-time and also cost energy. We really only look at the character nodes here. And if we, as we did, assume you have all nodes already unlocked, they are just a nice bonus and gone anyways. Keep in mind this was all just a thought experiment, as of course you can't just exchange your requisitions for Blackstone, and if they were to disappear, I don't think we'd get a replacement in form of exactly the same worth in Blackstone. This leaves me with a few closing thoughts. We get 1800 Blackstone per battle pass in requisitions, equaling an average of 134.22 random shards. The blessed requisitions might have a dubious worth of 1200 Blackstone, but earn us another 90.34 shards for free each month. That's 224.56 random shards. Campaign events are definitely interesting for a return on investment. You will miss the orbs, get some one-time rewards, and the shards won't be random. If you'd want to spend the same amount of Blackstone on energy there you could spend to match those free requisitions, you could get a total of 179.28 shards in that time. This also shows a glaring flaw in the campaign event game mode. You'd need to spend all that Blackstone in a limited time, which makes the cost per energy shoot up. Imagine you could farm with those 3000 Blackstone, not limited with time. That would be 6000 energy instead of 3100. That would be 347.02 shards instead. Hell, if you spend that energy on elite nodes, you could get 647.95 shards with 50 Blackstone energy refills. Campaign events let us choose who to farm, but are really narrow in practice, only being online for 2 weeks a battle pass and forcing you to choose a fraction. You also get worse rates to gather resources at a higher difficulty, going from what we already got. With an average of around 97 shards per event you can get per character, if you really focus on them only, you can only farm a common or uncommon character in that time, and have to come back to the same event and be as focused the second time for a rare character. Commenter CPU Nerd even had a really worrying thought. Campaign events let you buy the characters you don't have for money. They are now technically available. What if Snowprint releases only campaigns for half the missing characters, with the other half being purchasable that way? I have some faith in Snowprint that won't be the ultimate goal, but them starting out this way could help get more characters available earlier and potentially bring a surge of income. There are the seeds of greatness here. We wanted more campaigns. Most players enjoy lore. We wanted to be able to farm more characters. That's all here. That's fantastic. Letting players with missing characters take part by lending them out is also really cool. But the punishing matchup, general difficulty and time-limited availability make this mode fall pretty flat for me. I don't get why they couldn't just make them always available, or later on having them not run parallel but instead have them available 2 weeks at a time in succession, so there's always at least one campaign event running in the background. It could still be monetized, people would buy the characters nonetheless, but every solution that would let us go at the campaigns at our own pace would be highly appreciated. We will see how having to choose one campaign event will impact us when the next event drops. The levels are handcrafted as are campaigns, but normal campaigns just aren't as monetizable. We want new content and Snowprint needs to make money, and that's fair. I even think that having a featured character in the battle pass is a good idea, if the campaign event would be later in the event calendar. If Snowprint wants to make the mode more attractive though, they'd at least need to upgrade the extremist nodes to elite node status, so that the investment in pretty niche characters feels more warranted. Let me know your thoughts on campaign events in the comments, and let Snowprint know by filling out the inevitably coming campaign event survey. Those are always worthwhile by making our voice heard and giving us 300 Blackstone on top, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you need 100 Blackstone in the meantime, feel free to use my referral code BAT60ADO. It would really help me out. Thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.